Yo guys, my name is Phoenix and welcome to a new video. And today I want to showcase the deck that I tried to showcase in my Grandmaster Trials video, but I failed because the games were actually way easier than I thought. So here we are. This is the deck list. The cards you can see are 3 Wise Mermans and 3 Lyrial Celestial Archer. So let's talk about the card choices. Of course, 3 Goblins and 3 Mermans. There is nothing much to say here. They're just literally the only 1-drops neutralcraft has, so they're pretty much how to include, since I think that the perfect number for 1-drops is 6. And then we have Unicorn Dancer Unica, 3 copies. This card is really amazing, it has always been, so there's nothing much to say here. It's like a 2-2 with a ward-like effect, and the healing can actually save you late game when you put it behind a ward. 3 copies of Lyrial, Celestial Archer, and the deal 1 damage effect is surprisingly useful when fighting for the board in the mid game, especially when played on turn 4 when going second and you don't have a Tina or an Alice. 3 copies of Actress Feria. This card is honestly broken in my opinion. It's such a good evolved 2-drop, and I don't know, I feel like this card should gain +1/+1 when evolving instead of gain +2/+2, but oh well, since it's like this, let's abuse it. 3 copies of Witch of Wits, and Witch of Wits is one of the 2 neutral support cards the Runecraft class had, and it's such an amazing one. It's literally a 2 play points to 2 that always draws you a card. I can remember like 1 or 2 games in which this card didn't draw me anything out of 250 maybe. 3 copies of Gourmet Emperor Kai'Sa, and Kai'Sa is extremely needed in this deck. It helps you not to run out of fuel, and the fact that you put a carrot in your hand makes Alice buff both of them, so you get double the value. So yeah, 3 copies of it. 3 copies of Grimnir War Cyclone, and I don't think I need to explain this card, it's such an amazing card. And the enhanced 10 effect won me a surprisingly huge amount of games, so yeah. 2 copies of Goblin Leader. I didn't feel like putting a 3rd copy of it, because I didn't want too many 3-drops and I just prefer Kai'Sa and Grimnir. But this is a great card. 2 copies of Goblin Breaker Tina. This card saw a revival in this expansion, because it's such a great removal when going second, and of course it's a keep in mulligan when going second. 3 Alice, Wonderland Explorer. This is the star of your deck, of course, and the effect usually gains you such a huge value, and it lets you go for great value trades, especially when going first. 3 Goblin Princess. I first ran 3 Finas here, but Goblin Princess turned out to be a very good replacement. It synergizes well with Alice when you play this first and Alice on turn 6, or with Feria, and the Goblin King saved my skin so many times, so good card. 3 Felice Leonardian Mage, and this is the second neutral support card the Runecraft class had. So let's talk about Felice. Felice is such a great card in my opinion. It's literally like an Albert with 1 attack less when you evolve it, that deals damage to an enemy follower when played. So it can storm your opponent's face while controlling the board, and on top of that it can evolve itself without paying an evolution point on turn 7. Such an amazing card. This is the card that made me choose to play Runecraft as my go-to for the neutralcraft deck. That's how powerful it is. And finally, 3 Mutagenic Bolt. This is more of a meta choice, because I wanted to counter the countless Bloodcraft decks you can see in ladder, but it turned out to be very good against other decks too. The fact that these polymorphs helps you against Forestcraft, because they run Beauty and the Beast, and it's usually hard to remove, but with this card you just polymorph it. And on top of that, it gives you some reach, because it can deal some very nice burst damage, and it's also good for board resets when you're falling behind, so great card. So now let's talk about the other valuable choices. Angel of the Ward. You can include this instead of Goblin Leaders if you want to. It's a very good card against Bloodcraft because this can kill the enemy Tove when they trade for your 2-2. But I ended up thinking that Goblin Leader is overall better, so I didn't include it. Fortune Hunter Fina. Fina is such a good 5-drop. I ended up cutting it for Goblin Princess because this felt really awkward when I didn't have an evolution point, but when played on curve is much better than Goblin Princess, so you can decide to include it instead of her if you want to. Hector. Hector is such a strong card. I didn't find myself having enough room for it, but you can run this instead of Goblin Princess if you want to try. The deal 3 damage effect helps you get more reach, and you can use it for board control too. And of course the DOD. It's an overall very good card, so if you want to find room for it, just play it. I just didn't want to put almost any spell in the deck because I wanted at least to get the most value possible, and that's why I didn't include Dance of Death. And now let's go with the replays. So the first game is against Bloodcraft, and I'm going first.
Time to get started.
Here I will talk about the mulligan. As you can see, I have a Goblin, a Witch of Wits, and a Lyrial. I do not need two drops, so I decided to reroll the Lyrial, because Witch of Wits is usually better when you don't have an Alice, so you can dig for her. So that's what I do. I draw a Goblin Brigantina. It's not a good card to draw when going first, but as I said, having a second 2-drop is not useful either. And I draw into Alice, which is good. So of course here the plays are obvious.
These are my best work.
So of course I was hoping to draw a 3-drop here, but even a 2-drop was fine because I had the Wise Merman.
Ow.
He plays Stove, which is the best card he could play here. So I go with the 2+1 because I don't have any other choice, and push for more free damage. Trading here was pointless in my opinion. So I place Angel of the Ward, which is kinda bad for me, but it's still better than Grimir in my opinion. Of course here I have no choice but to play Alice. I take a value trade and go face because trading for the 3-1 was pointless. I was expecting a big knuckle bodyguard here, but this works as well. So at this point I lost board control and my hand is not great either. I decided to go for Tina to have at least a 5-6 on the board. And this was good against a turn 5 Baphomet because he couldn't remove it. And yeah, he plays Baphomet, so I'm happy about that. He does not evolve, of course, because what would be the point? And I, of course, have no choice but to play Alice and go face. Here I put him in Vengeance because there was no point in not doing so. He plays Phantom Cut, so at this point the game is over. Because I have exactly 7 damage with evolving this and Mutagenic Bolt. And that's game. Next game is against Havencraft.
I guess you're looking for a fight.
Still going first.
Is fighting and despair all you
So
know?
I only keep Witch of Sweets here because I don't need as many 2-drops. And I find Alice, which is pretty good. So usually when you have an Alison in your hand, you should play a neutral card so that you can buff it if it survives. But against Havencraft I was 100% sure it wasn't going to survive, so I decided to play Witch of Sweets instead.
These are my best work.
Because they have so many removals, they have Blackened Scripture and Snow White.
Crystals of snow shimmer in the night.
He plays Snow White, and here I do a misplay. Because I decided to trade.
no.
This was a pointless trade, I don't know why I did it. Maybe I was tired or something. I should have just gone face, because he was going to make this trade anyway, so there was no point in doing it. Of course I played Kaiser.
To the gourmet emperor.
And he does the strongest turn he could do with a Heavenly Hound and Pinion Prayer. So at this point it doesn't look very good for me.
Shapely.
I just swarm the board as much as I can. And of course I don't attack.
The next batch will be tastier.
I am a mad cyclone.
The real battle begins.
So at this point I just have no board anymore.
My power is uncontrollable.
Finally a fight. No.
Oh, actually my card survived.
Focus on
Of
your
course here
power,
Goblin
Tina.
Briggertina can clear
You're
the board,
done
so I
for.
decided to play her.
If my brother can't
I could have
fight
played
it,
Falice too, but I think that would have been a waste. It's so much better to play her on 7 when having evolution points and another valid answer. Cleans my board,
Lucius, I'm sorry.
so this is a pretty easy Goblin Princess. My other choice could have been Witch of Wits, Ultimate Carrot and Lyrial, but I wanted to gain the maximum value from Goblin Princess by playing Alice and Feria next turn.
Let us
But
conclude.
in the end that wasn't the case, because he just swarms the board too hard. So I decided to go for Falice instead.
I've got to win.
And this is where you can see how good Falice is. Deals 5 damage to the lion, kills the 4/4 without evolving, and then I just have my board control back. And that's without even wasting an evolution point.
Beautiful, powerful, and cute to boot. You're done for.
This Fina.
I'll blow you away. Preposterous. Ooh, sparkling stuff. Gimme.
And here he swarms the board again.
Shimmer in the night.
Now, the amulet was popping, so I decided to play a bunch of small stuff and buff it with the Feria.
These are my best work.
So that I would have board control no matter what it killed.
Emperor.
I am a flower. I bloom on stage. This ends here.
I take the trade with the 5/2 here, because I didn't want the amulet to kill the 4/4
Running away is
and
okay.
still give him a 5/2. And also because I was running really low and I figured he was a pretty aggressive deck. He takes a good value trade here
The next batch will be tasty.
and plays another Heavenly Hound with the combo. Put some amulets on the board. At this point I just swarm the board harder than he does, because I figured he wouldn't have Themis Decree, and even if he did, if that was his last card, I would just swarm the board again with the cards I have left in my hand.
Wing will end you.
Garuda here does literally nothing. He has to trade his whole board just to kill that. And now my move would have been to trade the 4/1 into the 4/4, but I do it into Falice, which is even better.
Plucking me from the skies.
So at this point there is not a single draw in his deck that would win the game. I think not even Grimnir would. Because I would just...
I have
no,
lost.
actually Grimnir would have been trouble for me maybe. But still, I win the game. And last we have another game against Bloodcraft.
I guess you're looking
This
for
time
a
I'm going
fight.
second though.
Prepare for defeat.
When going second against Bloodcraft, I like to keep Mutagenic Bolt. So here I will just reroll the Actress Feria because I prefer to draw her later when I have evolution points. I draw another leader, which is not good because I already have it to drop. But going second I have many draws, so I wasn't scared of not having a curve. Of course next turn I will play Witch of Wits here,
Bones.
because I don't have an Alice or a Feria.
These are my best work.
And draw into 3 drop.
I am a mad cyclone.
So this is pretty much the worst thing that could happen to me with a Grimnir,
What are you doing?
because I can't get through that.
Bow to the gourmet emperor.
And I play Gourmet Emperor instead of Goblin Leader because he would just take value trades there.
Lands of marvels. The
Play
next
Alice, which is
battle
another
will
great
be
card
tastier.
to play on curve.
I live!
And here I don't have a very good turn,
Both horses to the bone.
so I just remove the 3-2
You're done for.
and deal 1 damage face while I'm at it.
My wings are killing me.
Ow.
Face Goblin Mage
Gimme.
and Baphomet. I was surprised that he didn't wait to play this on turn 5, for 5 I mean,
Let me help.
but I was okay with the decision. In fact, this just helped me to gain more control back thanks to Lyrial. Here I evolve Lyrial for a full clear.
My wings are killing me.
Of course, I suicided the carrot on Baphomet because I wanted to protect the Goblin Leader.
I beg you.
He's feeling hungry. I am a mad cyclone.
Grimnir and Baphomet.
Witness the power.
At this point, I know he has 2 Spawn of the Abyss in his hand because Baphomet didn't draw him anything. And that's good information to know.
My both horses to the bone. Shoot
So the only way I could kill that Grimnir was by suiciding my Lyrial.
My wings are killing me.
I decided to suicide the
Ow.
4-4 instead of the 4-1 because I wanted to push for damage face, knowing that he had the 2 Spawn of the Abyss in his hand.
Wonders. Lands of marvels.
He plays his Alice, which is no problem.
Gimme.
And at this point I have no reason to take trades anymore, because I have Falis and Mutagenic Bolt, so I just put him at 2. Which means that at the current state he would just lose, and there was literally no card that would help him survive, not even Alcard. So here I could have it with literally any card in my hand,
I seem to have
and I win the game. So this was my neutral Runecraft deck analysis. And I really think this deck is an extremely strong one, especially in this meta. So let's have a last talk about the mulligan stage. You usually want to keep 2 and 3 drops. 1 drops are better if you, but you don't have to hard mulligan for them. Of course, if you find them, you just keep them. You only want 1 for each cost though, so don't keep 2 1 drops or 2 2 drops. Playing Witch of Wits is usually your best turn 2, especially when you don't have an Alice. And about Alice, you pretty much always keep her, except when your hand is too clunky, like when you have an Alice and say 2 Goblin Princess, you just reroll everything to look for 1 and 2 drops. But else you just keep her because this deck has such a low curve that usually your draws are good enough that you can keep an Alice without worrying that you wouldn't have a turn 2 or 3. Goblin Mericartina you keep her when going second because she's such a good board swing. And Mutagenic Bolt you only keep it when going second against Bloodcraft. When you go first it's harder to keep because you really risk not to draw a card for your early turns. And this will be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you can make use for this deck and that this deck is useful as much as it was for me. And if you haven't, please consider subscribing, and I see you next time.